Okay, take two. I'm Ray Fowler. I'm the developer for Remnants of the Precursors, and the video tonight is going to be not a gameplay video, but one to show you how to translate the game into your native language, assuming that you don't already speak one of the languages it's translated into. So let's go over this slide by slide on this presentation that I've made, because I need this to keep my thoughts organized. So you want to translate Remnants of the Precursors. Number one, works required. There's a lot of text to translate. 12,000 words, 13,000 words, that's a lot. Language skills are required. You need to be able to speak the language you're translating to as your native language, and you need to be fluent in English. Compensation, there will be compensation. I ask for volunteers, but I don't let anybody work for me for free. I respect everybody's time and effort too much to do that. So there will be compensation for your work. Team world domination. This is one I like to joke about, but it's kind of true, right? One of my primary goals for this game is to make it the most played Space 4X game on the planet. And part of that is to make a point that there's a tremendous amount of language markets that are underserved by AAA companies. And so I believe that by translating this game into a lot of native languages, the game is going to reach a lot of people that would otherwise not play. I think that's important. Impress your friends. You can tell your friends, hey, look at this cool thing I did. I translated this game, right? Impress yourself. If you don't think you can do it, you probably can. It just takes time. And finally, we have full dental and life insurance restrictions do apply. Okay, so let's talk about current language support. The game is currently just had an Alpha 4 release, and it's fully translated right now into 4 languages: English, German, Polish, and Greek. We currently have 5 languages in work: Spanish, Russian, French, Hungarian, and Ukrainian. And you may be wondering, like, how are these languages being chosen? Well, they're being chosen by the people who want to translate them. These people come and say, I would like to see this game in Hungarian or French or Ukrainian, and they come to me and we work it out. However, there's a lot of other languages I want to have for the first release. At a minimum, the additionally required for 1.0 release is a minimum. The game will not be released 1.0 until these languages are done: Chinese, Arabic, Hindi, Bengali, Portuguese, Japanese, Korean, Turkish, Italian, Dutch, and Bulgarian, for various different reasons. Obviously Chinese, there's like a billion reasons for that. Arabic is will be the big right to left language that I want to support. Nobody supports those. Hindi and Bengali are both very broadly spoken languages that are never served. You can see all these. I have my artist is Bulgarian. I have friends. I have a friend who speaks Dutch. I have the guy who does the music for the game is Turkish, and I didn't get Swedish in here. I should get Swedish in here too, just to kind of let Paradox know that they're dropping the ball here. All others under consideration, all of them, right? If you speak a language and would like to see Remnants in it, contact me. We can certainly work something out. I'm not restricting the game to these languages. These are the minimums that I have to have. So, compensation. This is what everybody wants, so I put it early on. I'm guessing there's about 12 to 13,000 words to translate, and right now I am compensating $750 US for that. That's probably about half of what a professional translator would earn, but if you're watching this, you're probably not a professional translator, and if you are, you're doing me a favor, and I appreciate that, because $750 is $750 more than what I'm earning, right? As if you don't know that I'm making this game, it's going to be free. All the costs for it are coming out of my pocket, so you can imagine. You look at 30 languages, you multiply it by $750. It's kind of pricey, but it's also very important to me. The good news is about 90% of the game text is already done through Alpha 4. There's several areas that have a lot of text, like the technologies, the dialogue, etc. Even most of the UIs are done. So if you translate all the text through Alpha 4, you're going to have most of it done, and that's what you would get $750 for. But as future alphas come out, as we go through Alpha 5, Alpha 6, Alpha 7, there will be more text, and there will be additional compensation for that incremental amount of text. So, maybe Alpha 5 comes out and there's like $50 or $100 worth of text to translate, and then everybody would get that and do it, and they would get extra money. I'm kind of guessing that by the time the game is done, I'll probably be out about $1,000 per language. So let's talk about this. This is actually going to be like a work session video. I'm actually going to show you how to do this. So let's go to the first step. Step 1. You've got to create a language folder. So I'm going to open up this folder. Let's say I've downloaded the Remnants jar file from the itch page. You can go to the website or to the subreddit and see where that is. And I'll probably have a zip file available with all the language directories that are currently supported. But let's just say hypothetically we've only got English supported. I'm hoping you're following the folders here. So when I start up the game, I've got the sound turned off on the game. If you go up here, you only see English. There's only one language supported, right? So what's the first step here? Let's find the 2-character code for your language and add entry. So I'm going to move this over here just a little bit so you can see what I've got here. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to translate this game into Greek, which is already done. Because obviously you don't want to watch me type out 12,000 words of text. So I've got some files here to show how a translation to Greek would be done. So the first thing we do is, what is the 2-character code for Greek? It's actually EL. It's not GR. So come over here, let's create a folder called EL, right? Now add an entry into your languages.txt file right here. This file here, languages.txt, is that pull down list on the front screen, and right now there's only one language in it. So let's come over here to this guy, and we're gonna, if I'm Greek, I'm gonna add a line just like this to this file, right? This is the folder, and this is the name of the language as it would look to a native speaker. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to close this. I think I can get rid of this file now here. And then now it says take all the files that are in the English folder, which are right here, and copy those into your new folder. Right? So now we've got this EL folder with basically all the English text files. But this is kind of a good structure, framework, right? So now let's go back and start the game again and see what happens. Come over here. Look, there you go, you did it. You've added the menu option here. Oh, by the way, one thing you'll notice, this discuss online thing here at the bottom, this only shows up on the English page. This takes you to the Reddit page, the subreddit for Remnants the Precursors. And since that's English only, right now I only show that link on the English translation. Okay, so that's good. That's step 1, right? You've created your folder. You've got a pull down menu change. That was super easy, right? Right now. Okay, so now let's say, do you need any fonts, right? Maybe if you're translating into a language that's uses Cyrillic fonts, or maybe it's Arabic or it's Chinese, and the standard font in the game doesn't work. It doesn't support your character set. You might have to go out and find some fonts. So if we go back in this language folder, you'll see that there's this font directory right here. It's got these fonts that are in it. And if you go back and look in the English folder under fonts, there's a list of, like, the logo font is this guy, the dialogue font is this guy, the narrow font is this guy, right? And these are like how the fonts are identified in the game. And then right here, this is the actual font file. And this 100 is just a scaling factor. It's always set to 100, but if for some reason you had a font that was really large or really small for some weird reason, and you wanted to adjust the scaling, you could set that to some value besides 100. But I've never seen the need to do that, so I had just put it in there just in case. So now let's say for Greek, we're saying, oh, the logo font doesn't work, right? So in Greek, so what I want to do here is I want to change this font.txt file to now have this Piano Dido, I can't read that, font for my logo font. I told you just copy the font file over here. So oops, I need to put it in there. Replace. And then we're going to take this font here, Piano Dido, and put it in here. So that was kind of confusing, so let me show you what I just did. We decided that since we're Greek and the logo font won't show rendered Greek characters, which it won't, The default one won't. We found this font here called Diano Dido, which will render that, and which will look different from the other ones, so maybe we can use it for a logo. And then we went over to the Greek folder, and under his fonts file, we just changed this guy to say Diano Dido. And I think we changed the dialogue font. That's another one, but we just changed it to. So basically, we made sure that these 5 font options in the game now are connected to fonts that will render our Greek characters. So let's start the game up and see how that works out, right? So what did we do? Wait, we found fonts that we could use. We added those to the fonts folder, and we modified the font file in the language folder. So let's start the game and verify. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so now we're going to switch to Greek and see how the logo changed. It's because it's using that new font. And if I go back to English, boom. So you can imagine, like, if that's, for example, Chinese or Japanese or Korean or Arabic or whatever, it would change to your font that you put in that font file. So now I've shown you how to like create your folder, and if you have a special font need, use that. You may, this font step is optional. You may not even need to do that. So let's go to the next step. The labels.txt file. Now this is a goodie. The labels.txt file is the file. Let me open up the game here. This is an important one, and this is the first one translators do a lot. This is the one that controls things like all the labels you see in the game, like the labels here, down here. If I start a new game, actually it doesn't control this. This is a different area, but like it may control like all these labels over here, all these labels down here on the bottom. So let's see how that looks. What we want to do, this right in the Greek folder, we want to look at the labels.txt file so you can see what it looks like here. There is there's this game key that is used when the game needs something. It's on the left, and then there's a vertical bar, and then this is the actual text that's displayed. So let's go down here to like the game titles. Game title line 1, 2, 3, Remnants of the Precursors, discuss online, the game menu for continued game, new game, load game. So you can see how all this is connected. So what we're going to do is we're going to magically translate this all into Greek by just taking this file over here and putting it right here. And we're going to write, because we already had a translator, Vangelis, who's already done this for me, so I don't have to do that. So now let's look at what this file looks like. Look at this file. See, the game menu has got this thing here. So a translator has gone through and translated all those words. Now notice sometimes you see like a %1 or whatever. That represents like a variable being passed into the string, and generally it's pretty obvious from the context. And if you ever see one like that you don't understand what it is, you could ask me, right? Just say, what is this supposed to be? And I can tell you. So let's see what it looks like now when we start up the game with just the labels file changed. Of course, here we're in English, but if we change over to Greek and we pick up our new labels file, this is what we get. Look at that, right? Now, it just so happens that this textures off and on is a new feature, and it's still in English because I haven't sent the updated file to the translator to translate it. So this part of that file is still in English. See, so that's another thing too, right? The English file is always the default. So if you forget to translate something, or if you leave out a label, it'll default to the English version every time, right? So now if I say new game, this is still English. This is in a different area. This part was Greek, right? See, the cancel and accept buttons are in Greek now. And if we come over here, this is in the races folder, so that's different. That's not translated yet. But see how all this is Greek now, but this right over here is still English because we haven't done that yet. And so if you go to like the technologies, look at that. That's some of this. That's new actually. I don't have a thing here. So let's quit. So you can see now, look, we're well on our way. If you do the labels text file, you've already got like, visually, you've got like most of the battle. Of course, from an actual word count point of view, you've got a long way to go, but still, it's a nice thing. So let's look at the labels text file here. This file defines all display labels used on the various screens. Variables like %1, %2 are passed in by the game. These are generally numbers. There's a diplomatic incidents area in the labels text file that you can ignore. It uses a different scheme, which will be explained later. There's also a line in there that says, do not translate past here. Now, what that means is I'm in the process of revamping. We have a graphic designer revamping all the UIs. So when the UIs get redone, a lot of times there's new labels that are added or removed or whatever. So I don't want the translators to feel like they have to do those screens because they're going to get redone anyway. Now some of them, because there's not that much left, they go ahead and translate it anyway because they just want to see the whole game translated. But you don't have to translate that. That can come with later alphas if for some reason you didn't want to do it. And then we started the aim verified. I'm kind of getting ahead of these steps. So now the next one, you've got the labels done. You've got the text file. These are for all the technologies. So let's go look at that and see what that looks like here. If we go to the language, then we go to this guy here. Look at this. This is the text for all the technology: andrium armor, tritanium armor, some descriptions, etc., etc., etc. So let's see what this says. This defines all the text for the various technologies and any ship components they provide. So, for example, if you've got like a beam weapon and it provides a laser and a heavy laser, so on the ship design screen there'll be a spot for laser and heavy laser and maybe descriptions for that. So name and detail are the name and description of the actual technology. So like here, name, adamantium armor. The detail increases the hit points. So when you learn a new technology, or when you look at it on the text UI, that's what you see. The item in brief are the name and description of the ship component provided by the technology. So for example, when you learn antium armor, an item shows up on your design screen called adamantium, and it tells you hit points, and then there's like a little variable. You can just kind of ignore that. Some things like weapons provide two items, like lasers and heavy lasers. So sometimes you'll see like item 2 and brief 2. And it's mostly pretty self-evident if you've played this game before. And there's a lot of repetition here. So for example, like future force fields, general improvements in force field technology. These are a lot of times these are the same translation. So there's a lot of repetition. This is actually a pretty easy file to translate, but it's long. There's a lot of technologies. So I don't want to minimize the effort. There's a lot of stuff there. So let's go ahead and copy that. You know what? I should have put a save game in here. Let me see. Let me go over here where I've got the translated text. Let's take this over here and let's replace. Place. So now let's look at our updated text file. So now it's all in Greek. That was a lot of work. It's all in Greek now. So if we start the game up again, oops, I'll just do it from here. Sorry if I'm clicking around and confusing everybody. You can freeze the video and go back. So let's start up a game and look at some technologies here. Let's just, man, this is hard to do in Greek. Let's just learn some technologies. Oh, look, these names, right? These are from the tech file. Sorry, I gotta play the game for a minute just to show you a technology here. So let's put it all in, I don't know, whatever this category is. We should learn this technology very soon. I hope. Are we learning it? We're so close. See how close we are? This was not part of the plan, sorry. I was going to have a save game file which had a lot of this data and I totally forgot about it. So I'm just next turning and adding a bunch of research here. Man, I think I must have picked the technology that had a lot of research points. There we go. Look, so here's the technology name and here's the description right here. It's all in Greek. Sorry for the delay. And now if you go look over here, see, so this is the one we learned, it's green. This is the one we're now researching. Oh, I could have just shown this. These are yellow. See, these are the ones we researched. These are the ones. So everything, because of that file, these are all now in Greek. That's what the text.txt files does. It does all that stuff. Pretty cool. Oh, I need to change the language back to English just because. Okay, so that's that. Step 4, the text file. Let's go to step 5. There's not that many steps, guys. It's just the actual translation takes a while. The races folder files. Okay, so this game has a lot of like text that is specific for each race. Like for example, the race introductions. When you pick an Alkari, you get a different introduction than when you pick a Bulrathi or when you pick a Cylon or whatever. So if you go into in your language folder, like there's English here and Greek, there's this races folder, and you have all these text files. There's 4 for each race. Alkari, Bulrathi, Darlok, etc., etc., etc. So let's see what these are. The names file. If I go look over here under Bulrathi, I don't use the vertical bar here, I use a colon, but this is the names of the race. Now keep in mind that the game supports 3 variants of each race, like the Bulrathi and then 2 differently named variants that have all the same artwork. So you have to provide names for those. So, and then there's the description. This is what shows up on the setup screen, right? Aggressive militarists, terrific ground fighters, the fiercely loyal Bulrathi value both strength and wisdom in their philosopher king. Excuse me. Possible home system names, title and full title. I'm not sure if those are used in the game yet, but I think they're going to be used. These are possible leader names. And then this is also very important. These are ship names you need by size. There's 4 sizes for ships: small, ship 1, medium, large, and huge. And you need 7 names for each of them. And now these are already defined, so you can just translate these, but there needs to be 7, at least 7 for each, right? So, and then you have, that's the names file, and you have that for every race. See, here's for the Alkari. So, you know, that's, right now there's 8 races. There's going to be 10, so every time we add a new race, there's going to be 4 files added here. You've got the intro text. This is the text that you see on the introduction screen. The title of the race, then like an intro for the year, and then you've got these lines. This is one line here with a character turn. Those represent paragraph breaks on the visual display, right? So that's what that is. The systems.text are the system list name for the Alkari right here. So every race has its own list of system names. This is done for kind of immersion, right? The original game just had one list for all of them, and there's about 120 names. You may or may not need to change them. If you're using Latin characters, you may not care, but if you're using like Cyrillic characters or obviously non-Latin characters, you'll probably want to change these. And I put little notes here as to how I came up with the names, and I haven't proofed those, so there may be something stupid in there, I don't know. That was just a memory system for me. The labels file, this is the other one. This is the most, I wouldn't say it's the most important one, but this is a biggie. So this is, the labels.txt file is, it's like the labels file for the whole game, but you could, anything that label that's in the labels file can also be in here, and if you're playing the Alkari, you'll get the race-specific version of that. So this way, theoretically, I could have different labels for each race or different text or whatever. Now, I don't really do that yet. It's possible. The only thing we're using it for right now is for the advisor text, because every race does have unique advisor text. And the advisor is the, it's kind of like the master's notes in the original game, where you would learn some new technology and the game is trying to give you a hint, like, hey, maybe it would be a good idea to do some transports, or maybe you should, this would be a good time to, you know, redesign your ships because you got a faster engines or something like that. And it only does it once per type. You won't get spammed. But every race, there's a lot of flavor text in here for each race, and that's what this stuff is. Now, there's also these things up here at the top. This is the dictionary for translators that they can create, and that'll be covered later. You don't have to worry about that for now. So if you were to copy all of the race files over here, right, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to take the Greek version of these guys, and we're going to see what it does. So we're going to come over here, copy, replace all. Now if I go look at my Alkari intro text, look, it's in Greek, right? So, because I translate really fast when someone's already done it. So now, let's see what happens here, right? Let's start this guy up again. Let's go to Greek. Let's start a new game. See, now this stuff here is in Greek. This is in the race-specific file. And if let's say I'm going to pick, I like them, Rashawn. They're awesome. So, see, all this is in Greek now, right? Whereas before this was in English. And for each race, this is different text. That's why there are race-specific files. So hopefully this is making sense to you, and you're getting an idea of the scope, right? This is not like a weekend effort. Let's see, diplomatic incidents. Okay, now we're getting to some of the more recent stuff I've done for the translators. And by the way, I want to have a note for the translators that have already been doing this. I apologize for not having all these features in the game from the start. This is the first game I've ever made, and I'm learning, and so some of the earliest translators really had a harder job, right? The files weren't as straightforward to translate as they are now, and so they kind of blazed the trail for everybody else, and their comments and suggestions have gone a lot to make this more streamlined. And so I want to apologize to them for not having it streamlined in the first place, but I also want to thank them for all their feedback. So what are diplomatic incidents? Diplomatic incidents are when you interact with another race and you do something they like or dislike. If you go to the embassy, you'll see some text. I'm going to see if I can find a save game here real quick. Give me a second. If I can get this open up here. Documents, let's just pick all these bugs people have sent me. Don't look at the names. These are all bugs. Let's just, I could have sworn I had one that was big. Ooh, big crash. That sounds good. So let's take this save game file and put it in here with the remnants jar. So now if I load this guy up and I say load, oh, I can't read that. Load game, big crash. It's loading a big game. Oh, it's taking forever. It's a big file. Okay. So, for example, if like here's all the. This is not. Well, this is no good. Okay. What's it gonna do here? I was gonna hopefully have a diplomacy thing here. Yeah. I don't. Dang it. I might crop this out, or I might not, depending on whether or not I think you'll laugh at me. Let me see if I can find another one. I was hoping this would have like a one with a lot of races. Oh, ground combat. Yes, that'll have other races. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, so now all I wanted to show you, for all that work, you can skip this, is see these diplomatic events are right here. That's this thing here. So if you go to different races, you'll see diplomatic events. There's like a title, there's like a year, there's some text, right? Look at this catalog here, captured colony. So now I'm going to go show you that file. I apologize for that little diversion there. So if we go look in the labels.txt file, I better look at English. There's a section near the top for all the diplomatic incidents right here. Oh, that's my phone. Sorry, Mom. Talk to you later. Of course. Hilarious. This is so professional, guys. Okay, so if you look in the labels, I'm chugging through, no stopping. Right, got too much time in here. There's not going to be a take 3. If you look at the labels.txt file, there's incidents here, and there's like a title, and there's, you know, the description, and you'll notice the description, it doesn't have like %1, %2, %3. It actually has like bracketed variable names, and this is kind of important because these incidents have too much like context specific information that the game just can't say here's a variable, plug it in here, right? Because there's like a lot of nuances in different languages. Like for example, if you've got like a subject, verb, object, if a race name is the subject, it may have a different suffix or prefix or whatever than if it was the object. So you just can't say this race name, verb, this race name, right? It's got to be like different variations of the race names. So that was a problem, right? So what I did is I created this situation where you can define race-specific variables. So you'll see race-specific variables when they say like attacker underscore empire. So there's like an attacker race in this incident. It's called attacked ally. And we're saying, hey, put his empire name here. And the defender put his empire name here. And of my race, that's usually the person whose embassy you're looking at. Put my race name here, right? So you're basically saying the attacker empire attacked the defender empire, which is an ally of me, right? So that sounds really complicated, but it's not. What that means is for each of these races, we're going to look up this variable, underscore empire, and underscore race. And if we go back and look in the races label text, this is what was added recently. You'll see like there's an underscore empire and an underscore race. And for each of these, there's 3 variations, one for each of the race names. So like the empire can either be the Alkari sovereignty, the Aviary sovereignty, or the Klakari sovereignty. And then of course there's the race names. So now think about this for a minute. The actual names of these variables are defined in this labels file. So if you're a translator and you say, hey, wait a minute, I actually need 2 versions of each race name, you can come over here and say, okay, well, for each of these races, I want to create like a race 2. And maybe, you know, there's something different, like maybe a plural version of it or whatever, right? I don't know. So maybe like for the Mershan, you want to create a plural version of the race, and the Mershan maybe don't have an S at the end of it. It's just Mershan is the plural version. But for the Sacra, you've got an S in it, the Sacras, right? So this way you can, in your text, you can say, oh, I want like, let's say I'm going to call this tag races, right? That's a, my little name for like a plural version of this. And then I can go into that incident file and say, oh, let me see if I can find it real quick. I can go back and look at this instance and says, oh, no, my races or whatever. And then it'll pick that variable, the races variable, out of each of the races file, depending on which race this is for. So like if it's the Alkari, it'll say Alkaris. But if it's the Mershan, it'll say Mershan, or whatever you decided in your language is appropriate, right? And it doesn't just have to be like plural. It could be like descriptive. Like for example, if you have like a Sacra fleet, you may say, oh no, for the Sacra fleet it's Sacran fleet, but for Alkari it's Alkari fleet. So you may have like a label that is like a, you know, when I want to use this race name as an adjective, right, it's going to be different. And to give another example for my English speakers, a perfect example is how in English we use a or an depending on the first letter of the default next word, right? So you may say an Alkari versus a Mershan, and so you can't put that in this text here. You can't put like a or an. You'd have to actually create a variable called, I don't know, like a race or whatever you want to call it, and then you would define that for the Mershan to say a Mershan, and you would define that for the Alkari to say an Alkari. And if I apologize if I'm talking too fast, but I have thoughts in my head and I'm trying to get them out. So anyway, this is kind of a cool feature, and I'm hoping it will give the translators all the flexibility they've asked for, because some of them have really struggled with this, because this is a bigger deal in other languages than it is in English. And so I'm trying to really work out for them. So, long story short, too late maybe, diplomatic incidents. There's bracketed variables. The race-specific variables are like my race, you know, or empire, or whatever. The prefix before the underscore indicates the race, and the suffix afterwards is the name of the variable that's looked up in that label text file. And translators can create their own variables. Now, I do believe the name, like spy underscore name or my underscore name. Name is a reserved word, and that just gives you the leader name of the race. So, and you can't put that in that labels text file because that's defined when the player can change that to whatever he wants. So let's see. The last thing, if you understood all that, then the dialog text file is super easy, right? The dialog text file is all the text, like when you interact with the races on the diplomacy screen. And just like the incidents, the whole thing has like my race, your race, etc., etc., etc. Your name, that's where you're talking to the leader name, and you see that a lot here. And so you have all these things, and this is a lot of text. A lot of text, right? I mean, it's a lot of text. So it's work, but once you're done, once you're done with all that, send me the files. Send me the files. I'll take a look at them, make sure they all work. I might run some stuff through Google Translate on you because I can't speak your language, and it won't be easy for me to double check. And then, you know, then I'll PayPal you the money. I mean, that's how it works, right? And of course, I'll be very excited because this is something I want to do. It's something I'm actually very passionate about. It's something I'm a big believer in. I think that everyone who plays a video game should be able to play the game in their native language, right? There's nothing special about English. There's nothing special about Chinese or whatever, right? Everybody's language is very personal and special to them, and so I want to support as many of those as I can. So that's all I got to say. I hope I didn't leave anything out. I hope I didn't go on too long. And thanks for listening, and I hope this thing is recording. Okay, it is. Bye.